let us go and see him when he came out of surgery. But in the meantime, my husband said to her, I don't mean to be rude, but what's your job? I mean, you're here at 6:30 in the morning. He didn't say you're an old lady. But anyway, luckily, and she said very proudly, I'm a volunteer. And what she said really made a difference in the rest of my life. It really changed. So about 4 months later, when my son was finally out of the hospital, I was in the shower one day and somehow a poem came to me that I just was conceiving while I was in the shower. So I just wanted to read it to you. I've shared it with many people because I worked with a lot of trauma families afterward. But in any event, I want you to keep in mind too, what an amazing pivotal role that volunteers can play at even the most difficult times. It's called Better Days. There's always a light in the morning that follows the darkest of nights. When tragedy strikes without warning and causes the heart to take flight. When nothing in life seems to matter and living just seems to bring tears, the dreams of a lifetime are scattered and surround us with all of our fears. But those who've been there before you do know that indeed there are ways to find and show paths to help you. And knowing they have the strength to endure, do you know what consolation that brings? It brings courage to face the future. And once again, to see the beauty in things and to fly as on butterfly wings. I was very lucky. A few years later, they had a big reception for her. She was retiring from her volunteer role. And I got to go back to her and tell her that I had started working with trauma families, that I had gotten some support groups going and everything. And I wanted to thank her. And she said, that's okay. I didn't make it there in time for my son. So volunteers, even at the most difficult time, make a really big difference. I think that's one of the reasons I love this group, because you do so many different things. So a special clapping for all of volunteer.
That was tremendous. Thank you, Judy. So, speaker chair. Who is speaker chair? All right.
Really moving, Judy. Today's speaker's name is Laura Meyer. Today's speaker's name is Laura Meyer. She's a Williston resident. I was going to start going through her bio that she sent me, but I thought it's better to tell you guys how I met her. She was, I think it was a town program guide, and she was doing a presentation up at Catamount and showing people around the geological history of the area and showing us the formations that you could see at Catamount that were exhibiting evidence of our geologic past. And it was very interesting, and she was a great speaker, and I said, we should have you to Rotary. Yeah. I wrote her name down, and lo and behold, here she is. She hails from New York, upstate, and has lived in Vermont for a long time. And I think you have a couple of children. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let her describe a little bit about what her actual, she's got an interesting academic background, but what she's speaking about to us today has nothing to do with her academic background. And she'll tell you how she came to this as well. And then she's going to tell you a really cool story about Williston. Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Somebody. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, please hold it close to your mouth. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Howard is passing around a diagram that's called After the Ice. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, and it's by an artist who is a Vermont Master Naturalist. And I volunteer with the Vermont Master Naturalist. First, Laura Meyer, my background is actually studying ants, kind of like E.O. Wilson. And my friend that I was in graduate school with at the University of Vermont started a program called the Vermont Master Naturalist Program, and it says Vermont Master Naturalist right on this sheet, and you can look it up. They have a great website. We make movies that are educational. They're hikes about things you can see on the landscape in different places, Kingsland Bay. We have one that goes up Sucker Brook that's really interesting, and I'm in that one. One more thing which has nothing to do with today. I was just talking to Kevin about beavers. There is on PBS tonight, half-hour documentary on beavers of Williston. And a lot of people on the Conservation Commission, including myself, were interviewed. I served with Jude on the Conservation Commission. So another wonderful volunteer opportunity. So Vermont Master Naturalist, how it's described is a layer cake of understanding from bedrock, the geology, to birds. So the geology, the glacial geomorphology, natural communities that spring up because of what's in the soils, conservation issues, and human settlement patterns, which can also be very interesting. So I'm just gonna touch on one aspect of that, and that is glacial geomorphology. So does everybody have two sheets? One's called After the Ice. Okay. All right, so if you look on the far left, and you'll see elevation and glacier. The glaciers were over Williston, covered all of Vermont, down to Long Island. Long Island is what's called a terminal moraine of this most recent glacier. Glaciers have been coming and going in this latest glacial period for over 2 million years. But this is a very recent glacier. So as you can see on the bottom, there's a timeline, and the glacier is around 13,000 years before present. So what was happening at that time is this glacier that's between 1.5 to 2 miles high, and interrupt me anytime with questions. So it's covering the Green Mountains. It's scraping over the Green Mountains, scraping through Williston. On the bedrock in Williston at Catamount, at my house, you can see glacial striations. And what that is glaciers are like a Dairy Queen blizzard with all sorts of mix-ins. So it's dirty. It has rocks in it. It has boulders in it. And it's grinding stone dust. And it's 2 miles high, so it's really, really heavy. And as it's moving south, because the epicenter of this particular glacier was north of us in Quebec. So that is a spreading center. So it's spreading out from this epicenter in Quebec. We're directly south. So when you look at any of these striations on rocks, so they're grooves in the rocks, they're probably going to be kind of north-south. It's not always that way because sometimes hills and things move the ice around. But anyway, so what's happening is the glacier is retreating, so it's melting. And when something that's 1.5 to 2 miles high and is covering all of Vermont, including the Green Mountains melts. There's a lot of water around. So if you look at the other sheet I gave you, called Lake Vermont in Williston. And what Lake Vermont is a cold glacial lake. I was just in Alaska and we were my husband and I were on this glacial lake on this little boat. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is like Lake Vermont. I was looking down at how chalky and blue the water was because nothing can live in a glacial lake. It is so full of stone dust from the glaciers, just grinding rock. It really drove home what Lake Vermont was like. And so if you look here, you can kind of maybe figure out where you live in Williston and whether you were underwater or on land. And the interesting thing about Lake Vermont is where the water covered the land, you can see that north of the interstate. So think about where the school is, think about Catamount. Think about when you're walking, it's kind of level and there aren't a lot of rocks around. Well, what happens is, first of all, the Winooski is an ancient river and it's flowing into Lake Vermont and it's creating a big sand delta. But also all the clay particles are kind of coming into the lake and falling. So what you do is you get some also clay on the bottom of the lake. And why that's important is because in the late 1700s, when people moved here, for example, the McCullough's house at Catamount, it's built out of bricks. And why is it built out of bricks? Because there was a lake, clay from the lake, nearby clay sources were used to build brick houses. So, where you see sand, that's a delta. And what a delta is been to sandy beaches, right? Rivers come down and when the rivers carry sediment, when the water of the river hits a stationary body of water like a lake, Lake Vermont, or any lake, the sand stops. It's coarse enough that it can't float, right? It just that's why you get sand beaches. But clay particles float out and they're gonna eventually sink to the bottom. There's a trail actually at Catamount called Sandmans because it's very sandy. And I'll talk in a minute about the big sand pit in Williston. Anyway, you can see also at Catamount, which is in the northeast, those two little islands. So I think that's Goose Hill and Lookout is on that large island up on the right, top right. All right, so let's go back to right. I'm not timing end at 8.
No, but that's about the time that you have, so we can have some questions.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions about glaciers or Lake Vermont? Yeah.
What caused it looks like there's a big melting point. There's like a big drop on the glacier. If I'm reading the chart right.
No, that's just artistic. Oh, are you talking about Lake Vermont?
Yeah.
Or, oh yeah, it's just saying, what this is saying is Lake Vermont, when it melted, was 625 feet high. So that was a good question.
How wide was the glacier?
Could you also repeat it for people at home?
Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So, On this diagram of after the ice, it looks like the glacier, which is 1.5 miles high, it kind of becomes blue at 625 feet. That is representing the height of Lake Vermont. And Lake Vermont actually changed in height a little bit. And if you study that other picture about Lake Vermont in Williston, there are 2 levels. It kind of dropped to 500 feet at one point. Do you think that answered the question? And the glacier, oh, yeah, it's spreading out. It's, I wish I had a diagram of the glacier, but it's all over the northeast. It's really not the width because it was everywhere. It got down to where Long Island is at 20,000 years ago. That was the cold maximum, and then it started warming up. So during these glacial periods, these glaciers are coming down. It warms up, they retreat, and you may read that this happens 7 times, but really, if you talk to a glacial geologist, the latest is from pollen studies that this happened probably 40 times, where it melted and retreated into and out of Vermont. Okay, so Lake Vermont is kind of stuck because the glacier is in Quebec, right? And it's over the St. Lawrence River. Right now, Lake Champlain flows out to the Atlantic through the St. Lawrence. So Lake Vermont is high and it's kind of stuck there. There's some rocks in the south that keep it from flowing that way. One day, the glacier melts just enough that I'm not a geologist, but those that are and study these things say that it drank within hours or a day. That lake just broke through the ice and went out the St. Lawrence to the Atlantic, this big pool of ice water. So then what happened, this is really fun, the glacier is heavy. The glacier compressed the land about feet. So think of yourself like 600 feet lower than you are now about. And what that meant is then the Atlantic Ocean and arm of it came in to where Lake Champlain is now. And that is why a beluga whale is the state fossil of Vermont, because we found a beluga when they were building a railroad in Vermont. And all kinds of animals lived in, it's called the Champlain Sea, and that's on your, after the ice history of the Champlain Valley, and you can see that's at 325 feet. That's Taft Corners. What's really interesting about that, because Taft Corners was the shore of the sea with all these fun things swimming around in it. So think about salmon, seals, plants. There are still plants that came in, they're coastal plants that we see along the shore. Like if you go to Alberg Dunes, those are ocean plants that as you walk along that beach, it's really interesting. And so we had all these animals and we still have Atlantic salmon, right? They got landlocked. When the Champlain Sea, and I'll tell you how this happened, became Lake Champlain. Okay, so we have the Champlain Sea and Taft Corners is the shore. And what do we have on the shore of the Champlain Sea? We have one of the oldest Paleo-Indian sites in Vermont. Because if you draw a line between Paleo-Indian sites that they found and they couldn't figure out why they were in this line, they figured out it was the shore of the Champlain Sea. So they were living along the shore. And if you look at the very bottom, you can see an arrowhead. So they started living in the area, right at about the time that the Champlain Sea formed, because you can't live around Lake Vermont. They're a dead lake, right? Maybe you can chase a mammoth. But, okay, so it's an interesting time because there's a lot of paleo megafauna around. There are giant beavers, mammoths, and camels and bison and elk. And the paleo megafauna mainly went extinct. Okay, so what's happening now? The land rebounds. It's still rebounding. And so gradually the land got high enough that we have rivers coming into Lake Champlain and if you dig deep enough, they say you can still find salt. Down deep, if you dig a hole. So now we have Lake Champlain, which is 95 feet high. So what has been going on? People have been living here. And all the animals that were living south of the glacier are moving up. And depending on what kind of plants, because you could take a closer look at this later, but you have tundra. And then, you have like the spruce and fir and pine growing. And then we have our hardwoods. And so you have wolves, catamounts, lynx, because there's a lot of snow around, it's cold. The beavers went extinct, but beavers are everywhere. They're up every river. They are changing the ecosystem and, well, they are the ecosystem. What changed was when they were extirpated or killed for their pelts. So that is what changed the ecosystem. Gray wolves, when they were extirpated, what moved in from the west were coyotes. And what's interesting about our coyotes is they have wolf genes because they bred with wolves on their way over. They also have some dog genes. And they're bigger. The eastern coyotes are bigger than the western coyotes. Let's see. Stone walls, you have as a present day phenomenon, and that is because that dirty glacier had a lot of rocks in it that it dropped. Also, when people came here, they cut all the trees down. And that's a whole nother story. And the roots aren't holding rocks down anymore. So especially if you look back at Lake Vermont, where it's not covered up by Lake Vermont, Williston, that's where you find the rocks. Where it is covered up, that's covered up pretty much with clay and silt and sand. Let's see. I think that gives us time for questions if anybody has any.
Yeah. So, and I'll bring the mic around to people.
Oh, great.
So, but I do have a first question is, could you tell us a little bit about your group that you're in? And do you meet and what's the requirements to get in and just, how did you guys get together?
Okay. Alicia Daniels, who was my friend, started Vermont Master Naturalist in 2016. And what she did was she took a group of people in Burlington, only people from Burlington could join this group. It's a business, so you pay for 5 field days plus other things that are going on over the course of a year. So starting in September and ending in May, there are 5 field days. And this is how it's set up now. So you go out, sometimes you go out with just Alicia and a coordinator. Sometimes you go out with a glacial geologist. That's like a whole day. He runs us around to so many places. There are deltas all over Williston. And the sand pit, that was from the Winooski River coming into the Champlain Sea. So if you go to the sand pit, that's the delta that's in Williston. So then she started spreading out. One of the first ones was in Williston, because I said, Alicia, can we have one in Williston? She said, if you coordinate, sure. That was in 2019. And we're going to have one next year. And what you do is you can talk to me and say, I'm interested in looking at it. You can look at the website. It talks about it. Just Google Vermont Master Naturalist. It's a website that has a lot of films, a lot of information, a lot of reading. If you're interested in this. And so Alicia has done a number of towns in the Champlain Valley. And I've coordinated some of them mainly because I like to go out and see what's going on in other towns as far as the landscape it goes. So, does that answer the question? Okay.
Other questions? I'll throw one. I'll throw one more. So how did, I'll bring it over to you. How do you know, or how was it determined that the glacier was 1.5 miles?
Yeah, they think between 1.5 and 2 miles, and I think somebody must have just looked at how the rate at which the land's rebounding and how heavy it must have been to press the mantle down, or the crust down into the mantle. I don't know, but that's what I am assuming.
That's all.
So among the sea creatures, pardon me, they're portrayed here in the Champlain Sea. I didn't see Champlain Lake monster.
You can comment on it. Well, sturgeon actually can get really big, and some people think sturgeon were thought of as champ.
Sally?
Thanks. So on your Lake Vermont map, my house is south of 89 and we are on that ledge that's there. My question to you is, because I can see some of the ledge, would I be able to see some striations? of
Yes.
that ledge?
Take a look.
I've never thought to look at it, only to complain about
I
it.
know. Not to look at it either, even after I was like, I thought one day I thought, I should look at my own rock in my backyard, and I could see it. Yeah, especially a flat rock, it's easy to see. There's one rock, if you go up Five Tree Hill, kind of at the beginning, it's an exposed rock right in the path, and it's flat as a pancake. And if you want to see striations, it is so obvious, you will immediately know what it looks like. So it just is running right down that rock.
Faith was next.
I'm very intrigued that you said your study is of ants. But I don't see anything like that on this diagram of this picture. When would the insects and bugs and, you know, crawly things have arrived?
They were around south of the glacier. So earthworms came with the Europeans, so they're invasive. They think that earthworms were not around, that they just could not have been here. Ants are interesting because when we go out with the Vermont Master Naturalist in May and look at one of the things a good part of a day doing is looking at spring ephemerals. There's a lot of reason why spring wildflowers are interesting, but one of them is because without ants, about half of them would go extinct, because ants are the ones that take their seeds and kind of distribute them and plant them. So that's just a plug for the ants.
Gary was next.
I need a bit. The Adirondacks are still rising.
Yes.
They're, it's a happy year, it's a phenomenal, you stand there and feel it go up there, and that's part of the way they measured. The height of it was how far it pushed that edge of that upthrust, the glacial, upthrust at the Adirondack. How far it pushed that down was the weight.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
They, somebody can measure that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Adirondacks are interesting because they are not the same rocks as the Green Mountains. The Adirondacks were formed over 1 billion years ago. They were higher than the Himalayas, so think of New York State on the edge of an ocean with mountains higher than the Himalayas. As they eroded, that erosion, of course, goes into this ancient ocean, and that's a whole nother story. You can see that ancient ocean along the lake.
We're gonna have one last question. Leslie.
First of all, thank you for your enthusiasm. I just love it. I mean, just throughout your presentation, it was just lovely. Thank you. So I'm really interested in this rock near Five Tree Hill. And I'm not good with directions at all. So I need you to be really explicit with me about where I can find that rock.
Okay.
It's just before you get.
Okay, park on Sunset Hill. Start following the path. The path is kind of covered up with boards where it's muddy and earth. But you're gonna start coming to some bedrock. As soon as you do, start looking at a rock that, I mean, it's flat and it's about that long and that wide.
Could you do that one more time?
And you will stop and look at it and you'll see all these parallel lines where the glacier took rock, whatever rocks were on the bottom of it and just scraped them along there. And anytime you see a rock that's out of place, it's called an erratic because the glacier moved those really big rocks too.
Oh, thank you.
Howard.
Yeah, thank you, Larry. That was awesome.
That was great.
And as a speaker to the club makes a donation to the Williston Mentorship Program
Oh, wonderful.
on your behalf. And we would ask you to draw one ticket and read the last 3 digits in it.
Okay.
And somebody's gonna win some serious bucks here.
We're not.
The money.
We're not serious.
One, okay. The left. Last 3. Digits.
And there are a series of votes we're gonna do. So the first vote we're gonna do is on the bylaws. So about 4 weeks ago, we sent around the bylaws. The bylaw change that we're gonna do is on different rules that are gonna be put in place for business membership. It was a little loose. The membership team kind of tightened it up. Basically, it's businesses, nonprofits, schools, town entities. And then it gave who can vote and so on. So I'm gonna make a motion that we pass the bylaws as written and sent around. Leslie seconds.
No, sorry.
Oh, I need a second. I need a second before discussions. Second, open for discussion.
You have a question.
Okay.
Okay. My question. My question is, about the line that says the businesses need not be in a particular geographic location. I was just a little confused about that. Wouldn't it be Williston, Richmond, and Jordan?
No.
Can the team respond to that?
Well, I actually didn't add that line. I'm not sure where it came from, but keep in mind, a lot of our individual members don't necessarily live in Williston. They work in Williston. But if we have a town or a business that is on the border, doesn't really have an active Rotary club and they want to join us, I think, we'd be crazy not to welcome them.
That's good. Was there any other questions or discussions? Okay, so we will take a vote and Jason, how many voting members do we have today? And remember, only members can vote.
Yep. We have 26 here because Chris left, right?
And you have the two?
Yeah, we have three, do we have three now up there?
Yeah.
We have three online, yeah. Okay. So we have 29. All right, so I want to see a show of hands to accept the bylaws as written. Point two,
That's up there.
and online.
I vote.
Three,
Dave's got his hand up.
24. All right,
Still sitting there.
so it does pass. Thank you.
Well, I never.
So the next voting we're gonna do is, and I mentioned this early before the meeting started, but if anybody came in a little after that, just as you know, we have voted on the charity budget last week. We had 21 items. We need to find about $4,000 to balance the budget, so some things need to come out or change. Last week, we voted for 14, that is in as written, so we haven't taken any money out at this point. I put the 7 on the board to vote. If you didn't get stickers, to make sure I get you some people have already voted. How I set this up was you vote one of 3 ways. One is, so first thing I did is I cut the budget in half. So let's say scholarships was $4,000. Oh, say it was $4,000. I cut it in half to start. Your one choice is going to be remove entirely from the budget. One is keep $2,000 and up. And the third is keep 0 to 2,000. What I will say is this is the last round of voting. We're not going to get into the minutia. Whatever we vote, if there is not enough votes to actually pass or cancel any of the programs, the board will end up voting on it, but we did get your input. I did notice last week that not everybody voted. We had about 29 stickers. Some things only had about 23 or 24. It's your right not to vote, just fine. But please know that if you don't vote one way or the other, we may not reach the 15 that we need to make the decision out of the club. So I'm going to give this, who has not voted yet? Okay, so it's 4 or 5. Who, and then the 2 online, so we'll need to get their votes online. Who does not have stickers? Okay, I'll give you stickers. So why don't you guys make your votes right now? Deb will need to get the votes online.
Yes.
We know you don't like to see.
Susan? Walter, could you help me here? We're gonna need to get the votes online.
Yeah, the Champlain Sea went quite.
I did, I got. I'm used to. I'm used to.
So do you guys online have access to the email with the 7 topics?
Yeah, this such and the troublemaker in town. Laura, about it.
So if you do if you do a group chat, you can vote how you want to vote. Could you pull up the chat, please? Could you pull up the chat? Yeah, these guys gotta vote.
Okay. But, yeah.
So the first one is nonprofits at $2,000. We remove entirely. Do we do 0 to 2,000 or do we do 2,000 and up?
There. Just to, like, take care of, like, yeah. Something. Yeah, and I said, but I will say this. Oh, yeah, so you got rock. The shopping center is there.
Are you 3 online gonna vote? Okay.
Right by that.
Yeah, that was a weekend there were a lot of.
Phil, are you voting? Okay, the second one is what did I just do? Student scholarships, nonprofits. Remove entirely 0 to 2,000, 2,000 and up. 0, I'm sorry, 0 to 3,000. And 3,000 and up.
Yeah, that's kind of, the hope of those that have the roadie. It's kind of plenty of other things. There we go. There we go. Now I can't, you know, when it goes out completely, it resets everything.
So non-profit, can you hear now? Okay. Nonprofits, zero retirement budget, 0 to 3,000, 3,000.
Yes.
Is anyone putting a nonprofit?
Well, thank you. Enjoy.
Ask if they can hear us, because they could.
They can cut it off.
Okay. When it was in the budget, it was 6,000, so I've cut it in half. So it is, you can remove entirely, 0 to 3,000 or 3,000 plus for nonprofits.
Right.
So they are.
3,000. On 3,000 plus. Okay, speaker honorarium, it was 2,000 in the budget. And so it's gonna move to 500, so it's removed entirely, 0 to 500, or 500 no.
Always like have to slip in if they
Lake concert ticket. Lake monster ticket for Mentee. It was 200, 0, so it's removed entirely, 0 to 200, 200.
You want me to give you those sheets, take them down and give them to you?
Yeah.
And that. Health and healing minds and.
Yeah, so it's Lake monster ticket for Mentee. It was 400 in the budget. It was removed entirely, 0 to 200. $200
Whereas most people were happy to be there, you want to do your entirely.
Thank you.
That was a 6.
Okay.
Assuming that someone just wrote it.
Gotcha.
In terms of national hierarchy.
We're gonna move on to daffodil planning. Okay. Thank you. Daffodil planting, it was in the budget for 130, it was 65 last year. Did that add 65 again? So it's either move entirely to the budget, 0 to 65, 65. The last one is the speech contest. The speech contest was 130. I moved it to 65, no, 150, I moved to 75. We, as Barb has mentioned, we've never had any candidate ever to be in the speech contest. So the choices are move entirely from the budget, 0 to 75, 75 and up.
Yeah, I and once.
Basically. Also. Just the breadth of exposure, right? And awareness.
Thank you, guys.
Especially. Since it's 11.
Hello.
We thought you were still online. I thought you were still online.
We have an announcement.
Okay, for the past few weeks, I've been talking about our 30th anniversary celebration on October 1st. And many of you have responded. Thank you. I have printed out all the responses, and today I want to pass this around. So if you haven't responded, whether you can come or not, please say yes or no. And there's another line for what you'll bring, because it's gonna be a potluck. We're having a pretty informal, just time for us to celebrate and get together. So potluck at the St. John's Club. They have a cash bar there, so don't bring drinks. Leslie's saying don't bring drinks. I know Armin informed me, can't bring any drinks. But you can bring food, and will bring food because they don't have food there. And
Yeah.
and the other thing is we will have to bring our own like plates and utensils and stuff.
I've got that covered.
Okay, well, I just wanted to say one thing about that is I don't like eating off paper or with plastic, so I'm planning to bring my own plate and utensils. If you want to do that, so we're not making a bunch of trash and you can eat on what you want, then great. I put a category here too for you to check that. I know Sherry has some paper products,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
but I'm not doing paper products. You can choose.
We do have some paper plates and plastic utensils, but I would say that with whatever dish you're bringing, if you could please make sure to bring whatever serving utensil your dish is going to need, that'd be handy.
Yes, for sure. The other thing is renting the space costs $200. Armin made the reservation and he paid for it already, but thank you for doing that. But we would love to pay him back. So what would be great is if you feel like you can donate to that $200, give Andy some money today and we'll count it up and get Armin his $200 back. And if not, we'll like charge $5 at the door or something to get that covered, but that's the only expense, that and whatever dish you're gonna bring. So I'm going to pass this around. Please say if you're coming, if you know what you're gonna bring, write it in here. If you can bring your own utensils and plate, check that box. And this is a Google Doc, so I will email it to everyone too. If you don't know what you're gonna bring, then you'll have that so you can put it in. Leslie, you have one more comment?
Question,
Okay.
what hours are you
What?
going to be there?
It's 5 to 8 on the 1st. I've sent many emails about it.
Thank you.
Did you have something else, Sherry?
Yeah, if you could, even if you don't know exactly what you're going to bring, just maybe, pick a category, appetizer, main meal, or dessert, and try to stick to that so that we don't end up with too much of, any one of those things. And then I have a question, is there a microphone system?
I
Like,
saw your question about that. I'm not sure.
so
We can
you,
check and let you know.
thank you.
Thank you. I mean, unless you want it to be just a dessert party, then everyone's right there. Any other questions about that? Okay, great. I'm excited to see you all there and we'll party. Oh, yeah, and spouses and family are welcome too, as I put in the email. Hopefully you saw them. Most people responded by now, after like the fourth one.
I knew.
You're great. You already told me you're great.
Okay, today we are not gonna do happy finds again, so sorry. I will at least announce the results. And I'll post it. So we had 29, Jason, you said 29, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we needed 15, so student scholarships is a keep at 0 to 2,000. Nonprofit grants is a keep at Williston and Richmond Food Shelf, 1K each. Honorarium, speaker honorarium, 17 is keep, what we had last year. Martin Luther King is gonna go to the board. It was 11 to 6 to 11, so that actually is in the keep column. But we'll have to talk to Chris if she can do it for the 325. Lake Monster tickets for mentees, 12 to 9 to 3, so there's no vote on that. Or no definitive vote. Daffodils was 9 to 5 to 10, so it was a keep. But we will have to, and it looks like it's gonna lean towards the 0 to 65. And the speech contest was 25 1-to-1, and so we will not be doing the speech contest at least this year. So thank you, everybody. Is there any other announcements that anybody needs to make before you end the meeting?
Walter.
Well, come on.
So as in every other meeting, we are looking for people who have not painted their benches yet, and we do have some supplies in my car. If you're interested in painting, please stop by afterwards, and we just have a few left, so please.
Howard?
Do we have Sergeant at Arms next week?
Meaning what? You wanna do happy finds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we actually have no sergeant, right? We just ran out of time.
Can you just repeat what I say? Still looking for some dues.
Still looking for some dues.
If you wanted to leave happy side finds, please do so here.
Only
The
happy
club,
side finds.
Just voluntary obligation.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome again. Always a blessing having you.
Yes. It's you. It's you. Life is good. It is very busy. Yes. In South. Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah. Got back from a kid. Yeah, my most recent trip. So it was fun. Yeah. So take care. All right, you too.
Except on the third.
And that's.
Okay, so in that case, then. Yeah, this makes.